ọmọ mi ayọ̀ mi mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run tó fi fún mi. You are a blessing, not a lesson. I can't wait for you to call me daddy. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so lucky that I got you. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so blessed that I got.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our program on parenting. I pray and hope that this program has been of benefit to all of us. As we all have been saying and we all know is that parenting is a very noble act, and that is one of the reasons for us to enter Jannah. So I pray that we have been putting into practice what we are learning, and also welcome any questions that you may have concerning all that we have talked about. So today in our program we want to look at children going through difficult times. What is the role of a parent? How do we know that these children are going through difficulties, and how do we help them negotiate these difficulties? And as we know that there are many challenges in the world that we live in today, and as parents we have to deal with all these challenges, and we have to help these children to overcome these challenges. It is important that as parents we understand that children are really affected by what happens in their childhood. Most of the children, whatever is happening in their childhood will have a very big impact into their adulthood. We say that we are who we are because of our childhood. So it is very important that children go through a childhood that is stable so that they can be grown-ups that are very stable. So what are some of the difficulties and challenges that our children go through? As we know is that we have a high divorce rate, and anytime there is a divorce rate that is very high, our children are affected by it. So we'll be talking about that. We also be looking at trauma. The other day we had a terror attack here in our country, Kenya, in Nairobi, and it was all over the media, in the television, people were talking about it. And I'm sure that our children got to know about that, and some of them could actually be traumatized and we are not aware. So how do we shield our children from such traumas, and how do we help them cope with such trauma? Neglect. We know that children who are neglected, and when I talk of neglect, some people might think so long as I'm providing my child with shelter, I'm giving them food, I'm already taking good care of them. But there could be emotional neglect where we are not connecting with our children emotionally. We are not there for them. We don't meet their emotional needs. So we end up neglecting these children and they suffer in the process. That could also lead to a damaged human being. We also have child abuse. Sometimes parents become abusive because of the stresses they are having in life. Some may end up being abuse their children verbally, others may abuse their children physically. And when you talk about abuse, it's no longer discipline. It's when it goes beyond discipline, where you are able to call your child names, give them very horrible names, call them anything that is very unpleasant, and also hit them in a way that it is no longer discipline. When a child is being burnt with an object, when a child is being stabbed with an object, when a child is being hit on the wall, when a child is being kicked onto the floor and given blows like you're fighting another man or another grown-up, then that becomes child abuse. It's no longer discipline. So children who are going through all that, how do we help them, and how do we as parents work on ourselves to avoid abusing our children? At times we also leave our children with the house girls or the nannies who we employ in our houses, and we are not sure how they treat our children. Are our children going through any form of abuse when we are not there? And as a parent, how would you start noting that your child could be going through some form of abuse and you're not aware? So it's very important that we are very aware of what is happening with our children, as any form of abuse will have a big impact into their adulthood. The other one is when we are having children who have lost either a parent or both parents, and these are orphans. These are all people who need special attention. And we need to realize that when a child has lost a parent or both parents, they need more support than any other child. They need to feel wanted, so we need to play a bigger role into their lives. The other children we're going to talk about are any children who have a parent maybe going through a terminal illness, and the children have been going through the terminal illness with the parent. They have been seeing their parent suffer. If a parent has maybe cancer, which can be very painful, the child will have noted the pain the parent is going through. So how do we help such children deal with all this? Then we have children who maybe have issues at school, are not performing as well as the other children. They are below average. They will never ever get to a grade that we feel is the best. They'll always be below average. So how do we work with these children? They are our children and they're not performing. They are performing at a very poor level. So as a parent, how am I supposed to deal with that? Am I supposed to accept it, or am I supposed to just keep shouting and trying to make this child maybe attain grades that they will never ever attain? So all these are difficulties that our children will face from some time to time. Now, what are the effects of these difficulties? It is important that we realize that when we are going through a divorce, people don't just wake up one day and decide we are divorcing. There must have been some form of tension in that home. There must have been something that was happening that was not pleasant. And the whole time our children have been witness to it. And one of the people who have very good study of body language, it is children. Children can read when you are angry without even you having to say it. They know when we are not in very good terms. They know even when we are not talking that there's a problem. And at times they will voice it. And when you go to schools, when you're talking to children, especially those who are in boarding schools, I remember one girl who told me, I have come to school, I'm now in Form 1, but my biggest fear is when I go back home, I might not find my mom at home. She might have left. So I'm asking her, so why do you think your mom will have left? And she told me, the last time I left the home, my mom and my dad were in very bad terms. And I just have this feeling that I might not find my mom at home. Others feel because they are no longer at home, they are not able to protect their mummies from any form of abuse that might happen when they are not there. Another one told me, I have fear that my parents could even get into an accident and die when I'm in school. So some of these things we don't seem to appreciate, that as parents, our children worry about us and they care so much, especially at that young age. They really worry. And the whole time they're thinking about us. So when there's tension in the house, these children are aware, and it affects the way they are thinking. It affects the way they see the future. And at times they start feeling very hopeless and their self-esteem goes nosedive. So as parents, when it has become inevitable that these two people cannot live together, it has become inevitable that these people have to go their separate ways. We need to remember that we are the two people who brought these children into this world. These children look at both of us as the mother and the father. So where do we start saying, she is not your mother, or she's not a good mother, or this is not a good father? So we need to be very careful of how we negotiate divorce. We need to cushion our children from the effects of divorce. And why are we cushioning these children from these effects? It's because anytime we are divorcing, there is loss. There is loss of what we call the home. There is loss of aspirations, what we had aspired for. All that gets lost. And whatever we feel as a loss, even the children are going through the same loss. So we need to also remember that these children are going through what we are going through. At times we are so emotionally in pain, and it is very evident, and the children can also see that emotional pain. So they are also going through that pain with you. So how do we work with it? The most important thing is we go back to what does Islam say? We are told to marry in khair, and when we are divorcing, do it also in khair. And remember that we have these children. So we must remember that we, being the parents, we don't pit each other against the children. We don't lay blame on one person in front of the children. We don't do anything physical in front of the children. We don't use any vulgar language in front of the children. And also we don't allow our relatives to come in and take sides in front of the children and start talking of this father, your father is like this, your mother is this. Let us remember that whatever it is, these parents will still remain these children's parent. If it is the mother, she will be the parent until Kiyama, she'll still be the parent. If it is the father, they'll still be the father until the day of Kiyama. That will not change. So we need to teach the people around us that these children, what they need is protection. They need to understand the people divorcing are the mother and the father, and that they are not divorcing the children. And the children need to feel that no matter what, my parents will be there for me, and that my parent is not telling me your mother is a horrible person, don't go to her, or your father is a horrible person. And also we don't allow any relative to come in and tell our children bad things about either of the parents. That way we'll be helping these children to negotiate this divorce. Then children need to understand clearly what is the next step. They should not live guessing. They don't know, where are we going to be living after this? Who is going to be paying our school fees? Are we going to be seeing our grandma now, or we will never see grandma again? Are we going to be allowed to see our mothers? I feel very sad when I meet a child who tells me, for 1 year I have not seen my mother. Why should that child be punished? For 1 year, a child has not seen the mother. That child is in so much pain, and she cries and cries, and you tell her, why haven't you seen your mother? And this child tells you, my father does not allow me to have any form of communication with my mother. If this mother is not somebody who is leading your child away from the deen, I do not understand why the child should not have a relationship with the mother. You meet another child who tells you, I cannot even call my father. I'm not even allowed to have any form of communication with my father. As much as we are fighting each other and we are using our children, let us remember we are damaging our children and we are not helping them. What we need to do is to have a clear way forward. Let the children understand how everything is going to be from henceforth after the divorce. Let them understand that the two parents will still be there for them, and that they will never lack of any emotional support from any of the parents, and that the two of you still love them, and the love will not change because you are not together. These children need a lot of reassurance. Otherwise, we damage them into their adulthood. So it is very important that we as parents are aware of what we are going through. And if there are too many emotions that you as a parent are going through and you're feeling you're not able to deal with them, it's important to look for professional help so that you're able to deal with what you're going through and you're able to help your children. So it is very important that we as parents know where we are at and how we are going to work around with our children. So as we go on to the break, I'd like us to think about what we have just talked about. I want us to think of families that we know that we have seen this happening and look at it and ask ourselves, we as the community, we as the family, what can we do to help these children? Something I was actually talking about during the break on divorce is that these children never got to choose a spouse for you. You got to choose the spouse. So don't let them suffer because you chose a spouse that now you have a problem with. They never had a hand at choosing the spouse. Now, the other issue we are going to talk about in these difficulties is trauma. Like we had a terror attack the other day. We had an IED blast off in a town the other day. So anytime these things are happening, our children watch these things on media. They hear us talking about it. And we usually say there's something called vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma, you don't have to be present at the site for you to get vicarious trauma. Just by seeing the pictures, listening to what people are saying, the narrations can actually affect each one of us. And we can actually have trauma symptoms without us realizing that we are having it. Now let's look at our children who are at a very tender age. They do not understand what is happening, and then they are watching on the media. And then the story being said out there is that these Muslims are the ones who have done this attack. I've had a child asking me, if these are Muslims and I'm also a Muslim, am I a bad person? Am I one of the people who did this because I'm a Muslim? So you start explaining to this child. So in their home, anytime we are watching media that is showing something that is of trauma, we are watching television and we are having programs that have violence in them, or we are watching news and they are showing maybe a father who poisoned the children, or a mother who stabbed the husband with a knife, and we are watching this news with our children. Let's remember, When they are having all this information, they are watching this news, they are seeing people crying and everything, they also get affected. So we need to protect our children from trauma. We need to check what our children are watching, what they are listening to, and we need to know what programs they should watch. So anytime there's a traumatic event in the country or within the community, we need to shield our children. Don't let them watch the television in and out without your presence. They are watching everything that is happening. They are seeing people running around with guns. They are hearing shootings. So it affects them and they can also get traumatized. So what should we do as parents when there's such an event and it's splashed all over the media? One, we keep the media to as minimal as possible. Two, we look at ourselves. If we are showing signs of fear, distress, our children, if I'm showing distress at 10%, my child will take that distress and highlight it at a higher rate than I am. So they'll take it to around 40, 50, 60. So they'll be feeling things are really, really bad. So if I'm feeling that I'm emotionally disturbed because of what is going on, my child is also getting emotionally disturbed. So how are we supposed to act around this kind of stuff? What should we do? Most important, like I'm saying, keep the media to the minimal. Don't allow your children to watch this television and all this stuff when you're not there. Do not allow them to see photographs of these dead people on social media. Do not allow them to hear the narrations without your presence, where you are able to talk back to them and create a sense of safety for them. Once we are not feeling safe, our children are also not feeling safe. So we need to create a sense of safety. We need to make them feel that it is okay, we are going to be fine, we are safe. So how do we do that? By talking to them, explaining to them as per their age what has happened, what is happening, with very minimal language that will traumatize them further. And then we have to keep looking at how are our children behaving. When children watch violence, they also become violent. When children are traumatized, they might also start getting irritable. They might lose appetite. They might not sleep very well. They might start having nightmares. And we do see children who, during this period when there has been any kind of attack, that parents will come to us and they'll bring children who are not sleeping very well. And it's because these children no longer feel safe. And this is because at times, as we are talking, we keep talking of how unsafe we feel. Look at this has happened here. Where else is it going to happen? So as we are saying these things, our children are just taking it all in, and they also start living in fear that it can happen to them at any time. So we need to reassure them. We need to tell them that we are safe, and we need to make them avoid watching any kind of thing. And if you feel that your child is traumatized, when you notice signs of the child getting very irritable, the child sort of withdrawing, the child not eating well, the child not sleeping well, not paying attention, and having difficulties at school during such periods, then we need to seek professional help to help them move on from where they are. We don't want them getting stuck and moving on into having anxiety disorders. The other topic we wanted to look at is neglect. Like I said, neglect is that at times we are physically present in our children's lives and we are not emotionally connected with them. We don't even have a connection with our children. We don't create time to do something fun with our children. If we are doing anything, we are just doing what we feel as a parent we need to do. Like if it is just picking them from school, we'll pick them, or we even send somebody to pick them. We never create that emotional bond with the children. So when there is no emotional bond with the child, we say this child is emotionally neglected, and such a child will have issues in the future. This child is most likely to have problems when they grow up because they do not know how to connect with the immediate person. If they cannot connect with their parents, how do we expect them to come and connect with another adult and form a home? So it is us who are teaching these children how to connect emotionally with other human beings. So we need to be there for them. We need to have an emotional connection, an emotional bond with our children. Our children need to know that they can depend on us no matter what. Whatever is happening, they need to know, once my father is aware, this will be sorted out. Once my mother is aware, I'm in a nice place, I'm in a safe place. So unfortunately, at times our children are not getting that, and they are not sure about us. They are not sure whether you are going to be there for them, whether you will even meet their emotional needs. So we need to keep reassuring our children. We need to be present into their lives, and we need to show them that we have this emotional connection and bond with them. Child abuse. Child abuse is something that happens very commonly in our homes. We have the usual stories of the stepmother, and not all stepmothers are bad mothers, but there are others who just can't bring up somebody else's child. And we've seen a lot of abuse in children. Unfortunately, at times it's not even the step parent, it is the real parent who is actually doing this abuse. I feel very sad when I talk to a child and she tells me, or he tells me, my father, when he's upset with my mother, he hits me. So I remember one girl actually telling me that she was just walking with her father beating her with the belt. She tells me I had heard them quarreling, which was something she was used to. She tells me what I used to do. Anytime I hear them starting to shout, she would get into bed and try to sleep and try to put off what is going on. But this time she tells me she just had somebody whipping her with a belt. And when she wakes up, she found it was her father. And the next thing, he started beating her, blows and hitting her and kicking her. So she didn't really understand what was going on. And she asked him, why are you hitting me? And he tells her, you and your mother, you're all the same. So why is this child going through physical abuse? Why do we need to take our children through physical abuse, yet they are our children? And anytime we are giving physical abuse to any child, we are causing them trauma, we are messing up with their lives. These children can become very bitter, can become violent in future, and actually the children who are most likely to engage in other things. So why are we being physically abusive to our children, verbally abusive? A child can tell you the things they have been called by the parent, and at times you can't believe it. You actually wonder, was that really, is this your father or your mother who called you this? And they tell you, yes, that's my parent who called me this. And that can be very sad. Some children are taken through physical abuse because their grades are just not good. They are not performing at the level we want. So we start hitting them with blows and kicks and all the verbal abuse. So I want us to ask ourselves now, as we are seated, wherever you're seated, is my home a place where we don't have physical abuse, we don't have emotional abuse, and we don't have physical abuse? So if physical abuse, emotional abuse, and verbal abuse, anytime you're using language that is vulgar on your child, or you're abusing them with very big words, you're abusing these children. So I want us to just sit back and ask, are we having any form of abuse in our children, in our homes? And what is the impact on this child at the moment? And how am I going to help this child come out of that trauma of going through this kind of abuse? The other thing is children who have lost either of the parent, either lost the mother, or they have lost the father, or have lost both parents. And at times the loss is very tragic. We have children who maybe the parent maybe stabbed the other parent, or the parent had an accident, or even the parent died in a terror attack, or something very tragic, or even normal death. So these children, how do we help them cope with what is happening? When do we need to seek help? We need to be very aware of everything that is happening within our children. So before we end the show, I want us to look at what is the impact of all the things I've talked about on our children. So these are children who are most likely to engage in drug abuse if we don't rectify this on time. They're the children who are easily radicalized into getting into violent extremism. They're the children who are likely to get personality disorders and anxiety disorders. They're most likely to engage in crime. And they're the people who will have poor social skills and also perform very poorly in school. So what is our role as parents? We need to look at our homes. We need to bring back sanity into our homes. And we need to give these children a safe home where now we can know that we are bringing up an adult who will be the best in the future. So as we get to the end, if we have any questions, you're free to ask these questions. And please, today as we sit back, let us look at ourselves, let us look at our homes and see what we can change in our homes and in ourselves. And if we need any professional help, please let us seek it. So have a lovely week until we meet you again next week. So So this is Riziki from Hidayah Taimbe.
Ọmọ mi, ayọ̀ mi, mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run tó fi fún mi. You are a blessing, not a lesson. I can't wait for you to call me daddy. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún. I feel so lucky that I got you. Inú mi dùn, ayọ̀ mi kún.